Hey everyone, I'm here with Shireesh Thota, CVP of Azure Databases. How are you doing, Shireesh?
I'm doing great. Great to be here.
I know, and we're at Ignite 2025. We're feeling great about San Francisco. How are you feeling?
It's a magical place, and I'm so super thrilled to be here today.
Yeah. This is going to be very high energy, so I hope you can hang with me.
I am here.
You can? Okay. So what's the biggest news coming from databases at Microsoft Ignite this year?
So we've been working really hard the whole of last year to bring something innovative in databases. It's incredibly hard to birth a single database, so we thought, how about doing 4?
Okay, okay, 4, okay.
Yes, yeah. So, and these are all the top announcements from databases. The first one is SQL Server 2025.
Okay.
This is a major release of SQL Server.
Right.
So every few years, we basically come up with a major release. And we've had a lot of customers who basically say, we love SQL Server, but the security, resiliency, and all the battle-tested guarantees of performances and much more.
Yeah.
But they want to make sure that they have all those investments they have done to be honored, but have a path to the future, which is effectively AI, right? And so we have released SQL Server 2025, which is basically tailor-made to make sure that all our customers get all the vector search capabilities and much more in terms of really letting them build the next generational intelligent applications. So SQL Server 2025 is a big release.
Right.
The next one is Azure Horizon DB. This is a completely new database for PostgreSQL.
Okay.
So when you talk to customers who love PostgreSQL, they'll tell you that it is awesome because it's open, it's reliable, it's already made its way into becoming a choice database for enterprise applications.
Okay.
But one of the problems with PostgreSQL is that it is not truly cloud native. So what we've done with Horizon DB is exactly that, which is to basically take PostgreSQL as open source as it exists, bring it into Azure, make it completely cloud native. So super thrilled to announce Azure Horizon DB. The third one, speaking of open source.
We're on 3, okay.
The third one is what we call as Azure DocumentDB.
Okay.
So a few months ago, DocumentDB is an open source project. We've donated it to Linux Foundation, but we now have brought that into Azure. So for customers who are looking for the flexibility of open source, multi-cloud capabilities, they want Mongo-Compatibility, you got it all in DocumentDB. And on top of it, you have the fully managed service experience of Azure in Azure DocumentDB. Really excited about that. The last but not least for sure.
Tell us about number 4.
So we brought in databases into Fabric. Fabric is this unified data platform that everybody loves, and we brought in SQL and Cosmos DB into Fabric in what we call as the SaaS versions.
Okay.
So a lot of developers these days want to spend all their time on top of the stack. They want to make sure that they are really delivering value in a shorter time period instead of looking under the hood, managing the database, thinking about how to really tune it and all that. We do all that job for you, so you can really go focus on the next generational intelligent AI applications. That's exactly what we've done with SQL and Cosmos DB. They're generally available now in Fabric. So those are the 4 things that we've announced. A lot of major excitement in databases here.
Yeah, and I love that you're listening to what customers want and then releasing that for them, right? Like you walked us through some 4 major ones, and I love that you broke them down into 4. But let's hang out at SQL 2025. So tell me a little bit about how important is this release and what does it mean?
Yeah, so SQL Server, of course, has been there in the market for a long time, and there are lots of customers. Almost all the enterprises use SQL Server. 97% of Fortune 500 customers use SQL in one form or the other. And SQL is the only database that has various form factors, all the way from ground, which is on premises, to cloud. Lots of Azure SQL PaaS, IaaS capabilities, as well as now in Fabric, and as a SaaS database. SQL 2025 in particular, the aim of that database primarily was to make sure that we pull in the enterprise market into the AI era. So we brought in semantic search, which works in conjunction with every piece of data that's already there in SQL. So if you have some database, you're using the regular ways of using database, you can keep that. On top of it, you could do vector search. So that's the most important goal that we had, and we've achieved that. In addition to that, we do a lot of innovation in the cloud. We package it all the way back to the cloud, so that to the on-premises. So anybody who wants to deploy SQL wherever they want to deploy, It's easy. You could just basically get all that stuff. Features such as optimized locking, query optimization, a whole lot of things are now packaged into SQL Server 2025. The other piece that I would just call out here is that developers are getting a lot of benefits in SQL 25.
Okay, tell me more.
Yeah, so there are a lot of pieces such as JSON indexing, regex experiences, and then change event streaming. So developers who want to build event-driven architectures, they get all of that benefits in SQL. And finally, we haven't forgotten about security. Of course,
we can't forget about that.
Yeah, very important pillar
Yes.
of everything that we do. So we have added managed Entra ID capabilities for SQL Server. So if you think about it, even if your data is outside of Azure, you can benefit from some of the goodness of Azure because of our connections that we have through Arc agents and whatnot. So we bring in all the goodness of Azure to SQL Server. So these are really the collective pieces of goodness that we're bringing in SQL Server. Yeah. Here is an interesting tidbit that I would leave. I talked about it in my session. We already got 10,000 customers who used it in preview, and they've deployed 100,000 plus databases.
That's incredible.
It is an enormous momentum. We're very excited.
I love that you shared that with me too, and I love that customers are taking advantage of the previews as well. And so tell me a little bit more about open source. So it's become a larger part of Azure Databases portfolio. What news can you share on that?
Yeah, so open source, of course, is a very important part of our strategy.
Yeah.
A lot of our customers, when we talk to them, they tell us that they love, of course, our premium databases in SQL and Cosmos DB. Sometimes they want a database of their choice, a freedom to choose what they want for various reasons. They want to run it in multiple places. They like some of the ecosystem, some of the community adoptions. And so there could be many factors such as that. So we've taken a huge bet on open source. We have broadened PostgreSQL, and that basically is, again, a cloud favorite, a customer developer favorite. Not many people know about this, but Microsoft, amongst the hyperscalers, has the most number of committers in PostgreSQL. Because we are number one in that committers, we now have made a huge number of commits to open source code base.
That's amazing.
In fact, we are number one amongst the hyperscalers across all the last 3 releases, version 16, 17, 18. So thanks to all this work, whenever a major release comes out in PostgreSQL, it takes us exactly 0 days to bring it into Azure.
Oh, wow.
It's available right away. So that's kind of the commitment that we've made in PostgreSQL. So building on that, we have basically gone ahead and built a Horizon DB. And as we talked about a bit ago, Horizon DB is basically a completely, we've thought through, build this ground up to be cloud native.
Right.
Cloud native essentially means that you take advantage of the scalability, the resiliency, and the security aspects of cloud. So a few things that I just want to call out. If you want to have an enormous amount of compute for PostgreSQL, we got it. You can have up to 3,000 plus cores, and storage can be up to 128 terabytes. This is possible because we've decoupled compute and storage architectures.
Right.
So that makes it easier for customers to take a bet on PostgreSQL. They can scale compute and storage independently. And thanks to all these innovative novel architecture challenges that we have put into Horizon DB, we now have the ability to give you the fastest transactional speed, great commit latencies, and a lot more capabilities in PostgreSQL.
I love that because it shows that you're meeting customers where they are and then securing things for them, right?
Exactly.
And that's really important, for customers.
There's one more thing I want to talk about open source, which is DocumentDB that I touched upon.
Right.
Now, the DocumentDB, as I said, it's a NoSQL OSS play. Most of the developers, they do have a lot of open source offerings in the relational databases, but they didn't have any open source really in the non-relational. There were a few, but there was a lot of confusion. So what Microsoft has done is basically gone ahead, created a new open source database called DocumentDB, and we've even donated it to Linux Foundation. We're bringing that back into an Azure managed service. So so our commitment to open source is very real.
I love
very
that.
excited to partner with the community.
And do you hear from customers, do you hear that that's what they want more of, and is that why you're delivering on that?
Exactly. It's definitely the world is moving more towards collaborations, ecosystems, community-driven development, and open source plays a bigger role. We see a place for both. We see a place for our premium databases, databases that have a lot of security, enterprise resiliency
Yeah.
in both Cosmos DB and SQL, we also see a place for open source in PostgreSQL and DocumentDB.
I love that. And so tell me a little bit about Fabric. So Fabric, it's having a moment
Yes.
right now.
Yeah.
And we've noticed that databases are coming into Fabric. So what does that mean exactly?
Yeah, so Fabric, when it was basically born as a unified analytics platform.
Right.
So what we have done in the recent times was to basically bring in databases into Fabric. So when you bring databases into Fabric, it becomes a unified data platform.
Okay.
Now, Fabric fundamentally is a SaaS platform.
Yeah.
It basically has this pre-integrated set of integrations that goes across data engineering, data science, analytics, business intelligence, real-time intelligence. So it has all those pieces in one SaaS environment.
Right.
By bringing in databases, we basically completed the arc of becoming a unified data platform. So there are a couple of benefits here. Firstly, the databases are designed to be simple. So you don't have to worry about how do I deploy n number of knobs. Those are all pre-tuned. They're all available for you. You don't have to worry about it. It's autonomous. So anything that you want in terms of self-repair, self-optimization, they're all plugged in. The database automatically tunes and gets better every day. And we are continually improving on that. It is a large aspiration.
Right.
We're going to get, we are only going to get better every day. And finally, it is optimized for AI. So naturally, there's a lot of things that you could do in Fabric. And once the data comes into one lake, there are AI skills. It works very well with Foundry. And so we want to make sure that all databases take advantage of that world. So it's optimized for AI. There is one other thing that I would call out in Fabric world. It's called mirroring.
Okay.
So even if your database is outside of Fabric, you could basically move the data in near real time and continuously and seamlessly, without impacting your operational workload, move it into one lake. So thereby you can get insights at the pace at which your database moves. So these are all some of the coolest things that you get from Fabric.
And I love that you mentioned a unified data platform, right? Why is that important and why does it matter, especially now?
Yeah, so when you think about how customers and developers have built the modern data stacks in the past, they have to bring together hundreds of different services, stitch them. They have to worry about security issues. They have to worry about service resiliency. When you have so many moving pieces, it's hard to have a good business model, good security posture, governance is harder, and most importantly, data keeps getting duplicated. So consistency is not available.
Right.
Fabric basically solves that at a fundamental level. Now, what was missing earlier was databases not being part of it. You still had two estates. By bringing in databases into Fabric, we basically made it all one estate. It is henceforth a unified data estate.
I love that.
And that makes it really easy for developers to build intelligent applications. One of my favorites is a pattern called event-driven architecture. So your operational data hits a lake, a data lake, or in this case, one lake. And then people want to marry that with streams, real-time events that are coming in, and they want to marry it with streams. It's much harder to do it outside of Fabric. These kinds of patterns are easy, and they are super integrated. So you don't have to worry about how do I stitch across different pieces, worry about the data pieces and all that stuff. So patterns like event-driven architectures are very easy in Fabric.
And just listening to you talk, I can also hear from the customer's POV, they don't want their data scattered. It's so important to have things be unified, to be integrated. So where can we go to learn more?
Yeah, so there's a lot of details that I talked about, and of course, we've announced many things. There's a blog, that's on the screen here. You could basically go look at all the announcements that we made this week. There's a lot of goodness there, and I only touched a small surface area. There's definitely a ton of details that are there on the blog. Yeah, I
love that.
Recommend you go there.
Yes, and if you're watching this right now, please definitely check out that blog right now. But lastly, I hear you've brought a video to share with us. So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so Azure Horizon DB, as I said, it's one of the newest databases that we birthed this week. Very excited, and there's a lot of customer excitement there. It is in a limited preview form factor right now. So if anybody's interested, please do go to the link that we'll show in the slides. So please apply. But I do have a video that really goes and shows about all these capabilities of Horizon DB.
Yes.
Yeah, let's play.
Let's play the video.
Enterprises and builders love Postgres for many reasons: scalability, reliability, ecosystem, extensibility. But to turn your data from asset to advantage, you need the performance and resilience that modern apps and agents demand. For every application, from new AI apps to enterprise modernization, Azure Horizon DB for Postgres is a Postgres platform engineered to deliver the performance your workloads require. Built for business, Azure Horizon DB's massively scalable compute and storage, combined with enterprise-grade security and zone-redundant availability, meet the needs of today's mission-critical Postgres applications. Engineered for developers, Azure Horizon DB's advanced disk ANN vector indexing, built-in AI model management, and context-aware GitHub Copilot in the Visual Studio Code extension for Postgres empowers developers to build faster than ever. Azure Horizon DB connects seamlessly with Microsoft Foundry, Microsoft Fabric, and Microsoft Defender, so you can build smarter, more secure, and insight-driven solutions faster without the integration overhead. Azure Horizon DB for Postgres is where performance meets possibility, empowering enterprises to scale, modernize, and lead without compromise.
Azure has unlocked a whole range of opportunities for us across all the spaces that we operate. We migrate a lot of legacy applications and we can transform those applications in the process.
It is not only classic infrastructure and application migration, but it's also a lot of the beyond migration capabilities that we're finding here, whether it takes the form of AI enablement with Azure AI Platform, can be analytics with Microsoft Fabric, can be hyper automation with Power Platform, or security with Microsoft Cloud Defender. The list goes on.
Azure accelerated Capgemini to industrialize application modernization and migration. With the tools like Azure Migrate, Azure Code Assessment, we are able to automate the discovery process and accelerate that early assessment phase.
Platforms, security, governance, customers can trust and rely on it. Having the agentic AI capability there to do transformations, code refactoring in less time, better, quicker, and a more predictable time frame has just been fantastic for us. And obviously it helps the customer with lower costs, it helps us with increased sort of a revenue stream.
Microsoft Azure is an incredibly comprehensive platform, and there is so much activity there where syntax is concerned, the ability to play up some of our particular vertical strengths.
Azure is absolutely critical for Data3 and a core part of our strategy for FY26. It's accounted for double-digit revenue growth within our CSP business, and that business also is double-digit revenue growth in our solutions business as well.
So the advice I give to partners who are considering Azure for their next migration and modernization is really don't delay, go ahead, the tools are there, the support is there in the ecosystem.
Start with the mindset of GenAI first approach. Leverage the tools like Azure Migrate, Azure Code Assessment early in your assessment phase to get a better output.
Azure is a great place to be, and I strongly encourage you to get there.